Welcome to One Up Fantasy, helping you one up the fantasy football competition. For the latest in Chicago sports news, visit ChiCitySports.com. And now, here are the hosts of One Up Fantasy, Stephen Johnson and Chris Jackle. Kaboom!
What is up, One Up crew? Welcome into another episode of One Up Fantasy here on ChiCitySports.com and the Tape Never Lies Network. I'm Stephen Johnson. He is Chris Jackle. And Chris, I know we're both riding the struggle bus a little bit after the shenanigans of the weekend in good old Chicago, Illinois, for an unfortunate ending to the game on Sunday, but nevertheless, was good to finally meet you in person. Was good to meet much of the TTNL crew in person, including Phil, and again, just the whole cast of characters and crew that make up the TTNL crew. But man, I don't know about. I'm struggling. I'm still struggling, and it's Tuesday. It ended. It ended for you yesterday, I guess. So you
late last night. I mean, yesterday was a fog. I have to say. I mean, Sunday it ended not so well, right? For us Chicago Bear fans. First and foremost, you're absolutely correct. It was great to see you. It was great to finally meet you outside of seeing everybody in these little square boxes, like we've talked about all weekend. You know, and the comments with the fans, and just it's been a lot of fun. To me, it's like the 48-hour rule. It's always like 2 days after you kind of get hit with that struggle bus. I jumped on it early. I'm tired. It's tough. You know, if Claudio was here, he could explain some of the events that he experienced after the game. But I'll let him talk about that on Wednesday. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of awesome people. You know, some people that couldn't make it. We hope to do something like this down the road. But man, it was a lot of fun. My first time in Chicago. I met Greg Braggs, you know, so that was always something to, you know, face to face, like, you know, mano y mano, and, you know, whatever. It is what it is. But it was great, man. And it really was. So thanks again for having, you know, showing me a good time on Sunday. Shit, we had a great time at the tailgate. But Friday night or Thursday, I don't even, Saturday night, I couldn't even tell you.
Whatever day it
exactly.
was. Whatever day it was. Yeah, no, a lot of fun. Sammy the Bull putting on a great tailgate there for us in the South Lot. And cars we met as well.
7 feet, 1 inch cars.
Yeah, I will say that Cars is a lot taller than I anticipated him to be. I think that
he was taller than Steve Edwards.
Yes.
And he was like, what the fuck, dude? You know, it was great. I mean, it was so much fun. But, I mean, there was still fantasy to be had. And I know that our rosters definitely had to be taken care of early. I know we were all trying to get service Sunday over at the stadium, which just sucks. They must do that on purpose. But the McCaskies must not like fantasy players. But anyway, you know, with that being said, I'm glad we're here. Tuesday night, it's coming a little quick on us. But, hey, we'll bang this one out. And, you know, we'll move on to week 7. So let's get it moving.
Absolutely. We'll dive right into it. I do have one question for you. Did you get P-Quads or no?
No.
Damn it.
No.
Come on.
No.
Disappointed. Next time.
Exactly. There were a few things that didn't get to happen, but, you know, nonetheless, you know, after I woke up Monday and just the chain of events that happened on Monday were just unbelievable. So I'm glad to be back in Connecticut. Safe and sound.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we're going to dive right into it. It was, again, a wild and crazy week 6. Everything that went on. Week 7 is one of the more landmine weeks when it comes to buys with everything going on. It's kind of a disaster in terms of who's on buy and who's not. You have the Cowboys, you have the Steelers. I mean, they're alone are several pieces that people need to navigate. The Buffalo Bills, another one. Diggs out, Allen out. Again, it just continues to pile up. And there's a lot we could talk about with that. But now that we're through, we'll call it a third of the fantasy season, now that we have 17 weeks now, we're all nice and fancy.
Yes, we are.
That there's been quite a bit of shakeup. You know, people planted their flag on certain players and said, this is my guy. They're going to go out. They're going to get it done. And it hasn't necessarily materialized for some, while it has for others. And one of the big things heading into this year, you had guys like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams at wide receiver, tight end, obviously Travis Kelsey, quarterback, you got Patrick Mahomes. However, we want to take kind of a look into the future to start off the show tonight.
Your crystal ball, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. And talking about maybe what we could see here for the remainder of 2021 and heading into 2022, that if you're sitting there with a first round pick, who's the guys that you'd say are now the players at their respective positions that you'll say, you know what, I feel pretty damn comfortable about taking this guy in the first round with my first pick at the first selection at his position. And really to start it off, this all went down after we had our show last Tuesday. Christian McCaffrey going on the IR, missing at least another 3 games. And here we are, the second consecutive year where Christian McCaffrey is missing significant time. And it is causing a lot of fantasy football heartache for a lot of players who picked him at the 101. Me included. And here we are with a top 5 as it stands right now. Derrick Henry just destroying everybody in standard leagues, scoring 8 points more than Austin Eckler, who is sitting in second. In terms of PPR, it's not much better.
He went for 36 last night, right?
Yeah, had a hell of a game. If there's one thing you can count on, it's not counting against Derrick Henry, because he's going to prove you wrong. Plain and simple.
Did you see that thing on Twitter? Speaking of Derrick Henry, it said Derrick Henry running at you full speed. You have 100 chances to tackle him. How many times do you do it? First off, if you tried 100 times, you're probably permanently CTE'd up. But I mean, I can imagine. I just put 0, but that guy reached the highest speed in the NFL in a touchdown run yesterday, and he's also like the biggest human being in the fucking league. And it's just like, it's mind numbing to think that guy, it's great to see. It's amazing that he blew by the 2 defensive backs. And then I was like, shit. Yeah, it was fun. I watched that on the airplane. Actually, it was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was a hell of a game from him. Really, just a hell of a game overall for how that came down to the end. You can question the Buffalo Bills play calling all day with the way that one ended. But nevertheless, again, almost 7 points in full PPR. He has the lead over Austin Eckler.
So you think he's a clear-cut number, 1.10 next year?
I have to say it's looking like that in a lot of ways. I mean, how many times can you sit here and count against him? And again, this was another season where it was like, the wheels got to fall off eventually. This isn't ever going to work out. And yet here we are. And, people can sit here and also argue the fact that you had guys like Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey in a points per game scenario, still scoring more than Derrick Henry, and he had a 2,000-yard rushing season. Wow. But the consistency that Derrick Henry provides, especially this year where we're learning it is a very delicate position and really one where the youth at the position isn't necessarily coming through with what people anticipated them to do. Yeah, Najee Harris is racking up targets left and right, especially in PPR, but his yard per carry average isn't great because that Pittsburgh line isn't great. Jonathan Taylor, he's starting to turn it on a little bit, but Derrick Henry, despite against all odds, seems to be that guy. And I mean, I don't know about you, but it's feeling like it's almost a foregone conclusion that you got to put him there until he proves you wrong.
You're right. Durability is what we're seeing out of him. Also, that's important to think about. Like Dalvin Cook's he's dealt with injuries already this year. I'm trying to think of the list here I had in front of me, but he's a guy that you're saying all the key talking points regarding Derrick Henry it's it's a staple. I mean, it should be, it's in Penn. The guy's a beast. He's going to get you your points. He may not get the targets out of the backfield. That's fine, because he's going to get the couple extra carries that make up for it. I do believe, I'm right there with you, thinking you're at least top running back. You're probably first round pick going into 2022. First pick of the draft. The injuries for everybody else. A guy like Ezekiel Elliott, who's demonstrating he's had health this year. He's kind of showing his worth. He's also doing this with another running back. But last game against New England, he looked phenomenal. And it's good to see him. And I could see him, if he continues that progression, he could be maybe in that top 3 category for your running backs. But a guy like Austin Eckler, he's doing exactly in a big contract year. He's going out to try to earn his money, and he's on the field consistently. But when all said and done, you're going to get right back to Derrick Henry. And he's the king of that hill. I think he is, he could put that flag in for 2022, barring any crazy injury. But, between now and week 17, he's going to take many teams to the fantasy championship. May not be for the Titans. But if you have him on your squad, it's a great thing to have, because he's day in, day out. He's just get it done.
And as we all know, he tends to get a little bit better as the season goes on, and it's just like, oh God, what else can he do? And just a mountain of a man to bring down as the weather gets a little bit colder, a little bit tougher to bring down. Just something to keep in mind is, again, you look at what he's able to do in November, December. It is eye-popping with how he has broken onto the scene with everything that he has done for that Titans team. At the wide receiver position, I think this one's up for a little bit more debate. Obviously, you've got 2 guys there that were among the top selected at their position in 2020 drafts, in Tyree Kill and Davante Adams. Tyree Kill in full PPR leagues averaging 23 points per game. Davante Adams, 20.8 points per game. Between these two, I'd still say at wide receiver, it's still between the 2 of them. In terms of who would be the guy heading into next year, I think the biggest thing that is yet to be seen and really will shift the weights one way or another is where Adams ends up playing in 2022. Is there's all the talk about this being the last dance or whatever you want to call it with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams in Green Bay. And meanwhile, you have Tyree Kill entrenched in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, which I think just about any wide receiver could take as an option here. Does Tyree kind of solidify himself over Davante in next year if Davante is no longer with Aaron Rodgers? Or is it a wait and see approach for you to see what does indeed end up happening?
I still think Davante stays at the top of the list. I think with him being a free agent, it's either you stay. If Aaron Rodgers stays, it's the best of both worlds. He gets the money, he gets to stay with Rodgers, or he picks and chooses. Rodgers may go to Pittsburgh. Hopefully he does. Davante can go over there with that band of wide receivers and probably do pretty well. That may actually hurt his production a little bit, actually, with all the weapons there. But I imagine he's going to want to go somewhere with somebody that can throw the ball, a contender. He's going to want to win. Because the Packers don't win shit, so except regular season games. But with that being said, I said it again. No, but Davante is going to be your clear number 1 in my opinion. But a guy like Stephon Diggs, I think he skyrockets up that list. He's him, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. These dudes definitely are showing out this year. I think all 6 of those guys are looking at almost 160 fantasy points for the rest of this season alone. There's guys that won't even get that for the whole year. And these guys have already been, putting out from this PPR projections. But, I think Adams is a clear one, but it gets a little not as, clear cut. Even Tyree Kill has a little competition at the 2 spot, in my opinion. I like Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs, right? It's like 2A, 2B, 2C.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp is the one that intrigues me the most. I feel like defenses have kind of held on to Stephon Diggs and understood what role he plays in that Bills offense, and that's why he hasn't been as explosive this year as we saw in 2020. But what Cooper Kupp is doing in LA with Matthew Stafford, and it could have been preached for days upon days about how much Matthew Stafford relies on the slot receiver when he is throwing the ball, and it has just absolutely flourished for what Cooper Kupp does in that offense and what he's been able to do. I don't know if I can trust it long term. That's the thing that worries me the most about Cooper Kupp. He's had injury issues in the past with his knees and his legs. I don't know. There's something about him. I still think he's a top 5. I just don't know if it's more of a sustainable thing for me. I can't really put my finger on it, which is really odd to say. It's really no substance. It's more of that gut feeling.
It's more that Urban Meyer,
else. Yeah, that gets you really far these days.
His fingers apparently do, but sorry. But I mean, Cooper Kupp stats on the year. I apologize. Bang, bang. Cooper's he's had almost 4 games with over 30 fantasy points. That we spoke on this, was it 2 weeks ago, with the bond between a receiver and a quarterback. I think we talked about with Brady and AB, right? They're the same thing to be said about Cooper and not Goff, just Stafford, Jesus. And Goff has no connection with anybody except the bench.
Not anymore.
No, but Stafford and Coop, they talk about that and how there's, Kupp and Stafford have been working out outside of, regular scheduled channels, broadcasting. They're doing things out, extracurricular stuff, trying to get to the next level. And to your point, the injuries are a big concern with Cooper. Little dude, he's taken some hits. He's been injured before. But so far this year, if he continues this pace, I mean, he's looking at one of the, pretty prolific fantasy football season for wide receiver standpoints. But you speaking some truth with some of those concerns. So I would probably put him out of the 3 that I talked about before with Diggs, Cooper, and Jefferson. I think I would have probably him last now that we kind of talked it out. But Tyree Kill. Oh, Tyree Kill's probably now 2A, right? I kind of talked me right into it.
I mean,
you got to stop agreeing. I'm trying to disagree to some extent.
I know. But I mean, you look at the stats. It's hard, not to go that route. But talking about just what Cooper is currently doing with LA, he is on pace for well over 180 targets this season. It's just an absurd number.
His lowest amount this season is 10 in one game. That's
it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And looking back, I will say this: maybe it's not fair to judge Cooper Kupp this way. He's played in at least 15 games in 3 of the 4 seasons prior to 2021. So not entirely. I think a lot of it kind of relies on that ACL injury that he had in 2018. But still, maybe not. Maybe he isn't injury prone. It's kind of the same thing that Keenan Allen had hovering over his head there for quite some time, where people expected him to just kind of fall apart. And here he's been one of the more durable wide receivers in the game here over the last couple years. So, yeah, I don't know. It's I hope I'm proved wrong, because again, what he's doing is incredible in LA. At the tight end position, I mean, really, I don't think we need to touch on quarterback all too much, just for the simple fact that Patrick Mahomes is young. I don't think there's really anyone coming for his crown, unless there is the opportunity that one Kyler Murray could creep up a little bit further up the boards in terms of the number one quarterback in the league. Right now, he is currently sitting in fourth. A little bit more than a point and a half less than Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen just about neck and neck with Mahomes, and then Tom Brady, the ageless wonder, sitting at a little bit over a point per game. But on average here, I think it's pretty safe to say it's an open and shut case of Patrick Mahomes in terms of his consistency as the guy at quarterback heading into next year.
Yeah. Not even
so. Yeah,
not much with you. Yeah, there's not much to say there.
Not much there, but tight end. This is the one that I do have a little bit of curiosity about. You have a 32-year-old Travis Kelsey in Kansas City, continuously the consistency guy at the position, puts up week after week of great numbers compared to what the rest of the tight end position puts up in the NFL. The stuff behind him, though, Mark Andrews has turned it on the last couple of weeks. Is he the only threat to what Travis Kelsey is as a potential number one in 2022?
That's a great question. You kind of want to, we talked about Darren Waller originally, right? When the season started, he was, pardon me, I still don't have my voice back from yelling Sunday at everybody, at all the Packers fans and all the fucking officials. I was listening to Packers fans saying the officials were against them in the first half, and I just wanted to fucking smack people. But I had, couldn't do that type of thing. I wanted to enjoy the game. And
you don't need to sit in the drum.
The stuff that went on in my section also in 349, I don't know if it's legal, but it was awesome. I mean, I think it is in Illinois, but I don't know if it's permitted at the game inside Probably the stadium. Not. But it was one of those moments where I was just like, what is happening right now? And it was like, I thought I was at
welcome to Soldier Field,
Smoking Grooves Festival for a minute. But everyone was trying to calm down after the first drive. I think after we came down and scored, it was like, holy shit, is this happening? And then we all saw how it played out. But back to tight ends, Shane. But I think Kelsey has slowly had people creep up into the realm of top tight end. Waller, like we talked about, Kittle started out slow. I think you're going to see him be drafted a little lower next year, just based on how things have gone this season, unless he is a dude who I think you should buy low on if you can get your hands on him. I have a feeling he's going to I'm not the only one, but I think he's going to kind of play out the rest of the season. I just don't see him having that top spot. Waller is the only other guy outside of Andrews that may enter the conversation, in my opinion. We talked about last week how tight ends have really kind of turned the corner in terms of how many dominant tight ends there are. But domination by one, I think, is still Kelsey. But maybe for a year, we may have a different conversation for 2023, barring any injuries towards the end of the season. But I still think, based on even our conversations last week, there are still plenty of guys you could get value with. But for the sake of our conversation now, I think Kelsey's still top dog for TE1.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard to look at what Mark Andrews has done here these last 2 weeks, especially when you can compare it to how he was doing the weeks 1 through 4, where he wasn't necessarily setting the world on fire, but at the same time, you look at what he is compiled here. He's had at least 5 targets per game, 44 on the year. I'm going to do really bad math in my head here, but I'm fairly confident that's over 120 targets on the year for Mark Andrews there. I just continue to wonder, Travis Kelsey's going to be 33 years old next year, and this is the tight end one in the NFL. Like, I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get it. He's getting 8-9 targets a game on average. But eventually the wheels got to fall off here. And I don't know if it's happening because he's kind of been bumpy, I guess, is the best way to put it. Not necessarily off to his hot.
He's not having a great year, and we could be talking ourselves out of this conversation. We may be talking Kelsey out of the top spot when you look at the numbers. I mean, Mark Andrews, I think I don't have that in front of me, but who has more fantasy points on the season? I know Andrews had that 41 point something game week 6, where he had 11 targets, 13 targets, 11 catches for like 42 points or whatever. But outside of that, I mean, Kelsey's been at, I think he's like 26, 24, 18. And then he had the stinker against Philly, but he's,
Right.
he only had 6 targets that game,
So in full PPR, Travis Kelsey is averaging 18.1. Mark Andrews is at 17.1.
Okay.
But in terms of overall stat line so far, through 6 weeks, it's actually pretty comparable. They have the same number of receiving yards.
Wow.
Travis Kelsey, one more touchdown, 4-3. And then targets, Kelsey with 53, Andrews with 44. So really, I mean, it's neck and neck, especially after the slow start by Mark Andrews, where he's only compiling a handful of points here in the first couple weeks.
So I'm going to turn this around to you.
Each other.
I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to ask you, do you think Mark Andrews will be TE1 for 2022?
I do have the concern in the back of my mind that once the receiving core, and in this is kind of hypocritical because Hollywood Brown has done very well for himself in this offense, but Rashad Bateman is also coming back in this Ravens offense. I want to see that consistency keep up with what Andrews is getting now once Rashad Bateman gets involved in the passing game. If it does, I could honestly see it happening. It would not shock me. At the rate that Lamar Jackson is kind of realized after a year and a half of, oh shit, I forgot about this guy. I need to keep throwing to him. We're doing really well when I do throw to him. That's kind of how it's broken down, or kind of how it feels with the way that Andrews has gotten involved once again in the passing game after kind of an uninspiring 2020, and now again flourishing these last 2 weeks. I'd say he's really the only guy right now that you can make a solid case for, just given the recency bias, I guess, if anything else, to what he's put out here in 2021. But I mean, I just have a feeling that the wheels are going to fall off eventually on Travis Kelsey, especially when you're playing a position of that nature, both on the inline blocking and the receiving, and you're getting up there at that age. It's a bad combination. It just is for any player in the NFL.
He doesn't miss games.
Play so long.
He does
and that's the other thing that blows my mind.
I'm looking at it now. I was dumbfounded. I was going to just ask you, but instead of asking, I looked it up. How many games has he missed from injury since 2014? He's missed 2 games.
That's it?
In 2020, he played 15. In 2017, he played 15. Every other season outside of his rookie year, he's played 16 games.
That is insane. Like, that is
as a tight end in the NFL. Insane. That's pretty impressive.
And for the fact that he's doing this, at an age as well, where he's not young, and we know that tight end isn't necessarily a position that people pick up on immediately. Everybody expects to see Gronkowski type numbers right out of the gate at the position, and Kyle Pitts. But again, the model of consistency is there, and it's just kind of scary, I guess, overall, that you don't want to rely too much on that fact. But hey, who knows? I could be wrong. He could play till he's 36 and prove us all wrong, and just continue.
Wouldn't be surprised, right? I mean, the way things are, avocado ice cream and coffee enemas and whatever else these guys are doing to stay in shape. It's you never know, But to that point, you brought up Kyle Pitts. He's turned a corner, right? I mean, he's starting to. What do you think was it more matchup based, and he's just kind of reluctant he's getting those targets in these situations, or is he really a guy that you kind of want to target if you can get your hands on him? If you have some assets, like you're heavy on wide receivers and you don't have a tight end, maybe you could package a 2 for 1, or make a move for a guy like Pitts.
It's without Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage in the game overseas, and to have him go off then
circumstances,
I want to see it outside of that situation. I want to see him flourish outside of that situation before there's the full button smashing of, okay, what do I need to do to pick up this guy? I think that's the biggest question that I have for him is, was it just a circumstantial game, or was it Kyle Pitts finally figuring out what he needs to do in order to flourish in the NFL? So, and all the Jets really aren't much to write home about either in terms of what they bring to the table. But hey, we all know that. We know that's all part of the game. But hey, we do what we can. So who knows? We'll see. There's still plenty of time to see who can bring it in 2021 and maybe come for that crown at their respective position.
So to recap, right? I interjected you again. I got to stop stepping on you, so I apologize.
You're good.
But running back, Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Wide receiver, Davante Adams.
/ Tyree Kill.
Okay, you're high on T Hill.
I'm high on the cheetah.
I can't hate on it. I mean, it's the Chiefs offense, so it's like, and then tight end wise, we're gonna Kelsey Andrews. Andrews Kelsey.
Yeah, I'd say Kelsey / Andrews.
Okay.
AB until again, kind of the same lines as Derrick Henry until Kelsey proves us all wrong that he isn't that beast of a tight end and age is just a number. And then obviously Patrick Mahomes at quarterback as the guys right now. But again, plenty of time for all of that to change heading into next year.
So the only thing that's really changing is the running back for next year, right? Derrick Henry surpasses CMC. Moving into, outside of that, everything's kind of still status quo, barring any rookies that come out. No, there's still no rookies that are going to do that. So
that'd be a hell of a jump.
We're just going right back to that. So I do like looking at that because it's interesting to see, trends, history, like it's like in baseball, the 300 hitter that started out, he's hitting 185, but he's a career like 290 hitter, it's like he's going to eventually hit a hot streak and bring his average up. So it's, in football, I think there's some of that as well. You're seeing that with like a guy like Mark Andrews, case in point, what you just said, so I like looking at it from that perspective. It's different. Some people may want to hear what's going on for week 7, waiver wire, start sits, all that other shit. But, it's just interesting to kind of sit back and look from kind of more of a macro view instead of a micro view. So I appreciate you kind of bringing that to my attention to chat about today.
Absolutely. But you mentioned sits and starts. So how about some glitches and cheat codes?
Yes, sir.
How's that for a segue? Here
we go.
Look at that. That's right. It's glitches and cheat codes. It is our version of starts and sits for week number 7. Like we said, it's not so great of a bye week for week number 7, but here we are. We're going to break down who we believe is a great play and who is a not so great play among the positions in the league for week number 7. Let's start it off with wide receiver.
Ooh,
mixing it up.
Curveball. Yeah, you definitely did there. Okay.
Who we got? Who's the start and who is the sit?
Oh, man. Good question. So I'm going to, I like Devontae Smith against the Devontae Smith against the Raiders. I'm looking for him to kind of rebound and having a disappointing game last week. I feel like it's kind of a solid matchup for him. I actually have him on my team. I'm trying to talking myself into starting him because I need a big win in our TTNL league. I did knock off first place Cat, so now I am tied with him. He does have more points than me, but whatever. So I think he was undefeated no longer. But with all that, I like Devontae Smith, but a guy that I probably would sit. I was going to say Julio Jones, but now he's injured. I don't know what you're going to get out of him, but I think Tim Patrick's my guy. I like Sutton. I'm trying to compare the two receivers with, Smith and Sutton just based on where they sit in terms of their wide receiver depth on their teams. I think I would start Smith over Patrick. Sutton has been doing really well I just don't see anyone else eating over there. But if you are hurting, I just think out of those two, that's who I'm looking at. What about you on the wide receiver tip?
I don't want to talk about the TTNL league because that.
Claudio,
You pulled that reverse psychology on me. Oh, you're beating me. You got me. You got me beat. Yeah, bullshit. Start this week. It's a guy that I think is finally going to break through in 2021. A guy that a lot of people had very, very high hopes for. I think this is the week he gets it done. That is Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons against the Miami Dolphins this week. No team in the league has been worse against wide receivers than the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, Ridley not appearing against the Jets in the England game due to his personal issues, but have a feeling he bounces back. He gets his head clear against a very, very juicy matchup against the Miami Dolphins. As for the sit, I'm looking at Corey Davis. I don't think there's much there yet again. As we all know, we can sound like a broken record that Bill Belichick is very good against taking away a team's number one wideout on any given Sunday. And this is going to be no different. The second matchup already with the Jets in 2021, 2 catches, 8 yards, their first meeting in week number 2 for Corey Davis when Zach Wilson was seeing ghosts out on that field. I can't wait for the matchup and the aforementioned interview after the game to see if he is still seeing those ghosts. But it should probably not be a good game for Corey Davis, given all of the circumstances, needless to say.
I want to just real quick, I'm throwing something your way.
Sure.
We've talked about him a few times. Brandon Ayuk, they're coming off a bye. Has he come out of the doghouse? I'm wondering. If you are struggling and someone has dropped him, long, risky play. I'm just saying it's risky, but he's like an ultra sleeper for me this week. I don't know why. I have like a sneaky suspicion coming off the bye, but hey, buyer beware. Just saying. Just a hunch, but he's out there. A lot of people gave up on him. It's like Miles Sanders and, guys that there's some guys that are out there on the waiver wire, maybe able to scoop up. And they may get you a big day. You never know. Just throwing it out there, Steven. Sorry.
Well, it's somebody to keep in mind. Again, he's as polarizing, I think, as they come for any draft pick out there. Maybe
he's getting dropped everywhere though, so it's kind of like
yes, he definitely is another guy that shockingly has gotten dropped a lot of places. Jarvis Landry should be coming back off of IR. Pick him up. If he was dropped for whatever foolish reason.
A couple guys like that to look out for, and I'm going to get to one of them later. But I like that. That's a good call.
All right, let's go running back here.
Okay.
I'll go first,
please.
Start wise, I'm going to be a hypocrite. I'm going Damien Harris. I wanted to drop him everywhere.
Really?
I wanted to drop him everywhere last week, and what does he do? He goes out and runs for 100 yards against the Dallas Cowboys. My God, I cannot figure out. I can't figure out the Patriots running game yet again. I figured
Stevenson went off too. He had a good day also.
That he did. And here we are, the Jets. Very, very bad against the run. They give up the most points in fantasy football against the run. He had his first touchdown against the Jets in week 2. It should be another script of run the damn ball down the Jets' throats with probably interceptions galore from one Zach Wilson, and back at home in Foxborough. Really like the option there. Here we go. We'll see if this drops the viewer count for the sit. Khalil Herbert, not the play this week for your fantasy teams. Damian Williams probably back off of the COVID-19 list. We'll see where that shakes up.
Claudio.
But aside from that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still allowing less than 50 rushing yards per game on the year. Very, very dangerous game for the Bears overall, who are 13-point underdogs heading into this matchup against Tampa. 13.
I might take
crazy.
All right.
Crazy.
The sportsbook is now legal in Connecticut as of today. So,
Hey, look at
imagine
this.
if we had someone that was into daily gambling and stuff like that.
I
But
wonder who
anyhow,
that could be.
yeah, I don't know. I wish Shane was here to just nuke him. But anyway, no, that's shocking, actually. Well,
Yeah, it's
I don't know how to take that.
Again, last time I chose a bear, it was David Montgomery, week 1. I hope I'm proved wrong again, but a very good chance it could be a negative game script for the Bears, just based on everything that's coming together here in terms of what this matchup brings to the table. But not a big fan of Herbert this week up against Tampa Bay. How about you?
I think it's, I like how you kind of said that. It's a perfect segue to who I like for a start is James Conner and Chase Edmonds. I like both of those guys. I think, going against Houston, they're going to get a lead and they're going to go with a 2-back set, probably from the second half on. I think you're going to get Edmonds first half, and then you'll get Conner in the second half. Conner 8. He's been eating in the league over the last couple of weeks. He's been on my bench in one league, and I regret starting him because every time I look, I'm like, shit, he's got another touchdown. It's like a touchdown every week. But, good matchup against a shitty Texan team. And I think if you have either of those guys, it's a must start for me. With respects to weaker starting, we talked about injuries. We talked about Chris Carson's being injured. We talked about what's going on in San Francisco with all the injuries there. One of the guys I think you should stay away from is Alex Collins. They're going against New Orleans. He's already banged up. I think Rashad Penny may be coming back too. So it's kind of like you want to play him out of necessity because there's been so many injuries. But then again, I would stay away from him. I'd stay away from, you actually took my other two. I actually stay away from both the Bears running backs for the same exact reasons that you brought them up. I was going to go 2 and 2 for my start and sit because I just think it went kind of hand in hand there. So yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head on that one.
Fair enough.
Well done, sir.
Quarterback, what you got?
Ooh, that's, there's a couple of guys I don't like, but I'm going to surprise you here.
All right.
I'm not saying, no, I can't say it. I was going to say Tua, but I'm not. I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to go Ryan Tannehill against KC. I just think that's just he didn't have that great of a game yesterday. Fantasy-wise, he just didn't put up the points. They got the W, and it's wonderful. But I like their matchup against Kansas City. They struggle, on the defensive side of the ball, as we talked about. A.J. Brown, good. Julio Jones, bad, with the injury-wise. So it's kind of pick your poison, but they have plenty of weapons. I think he's going to do fine. Sitting-wise, there's plenty of guys. And I know I like Devontae Smith in the same game that I'm going to say stay away from Derek Carr this week. I just feel that he's a guy that, he ripped up the Broncos, and now here's that big letdown game. The Eagles caused some problems at home. They changed the coverage looks, and I think Carr could struggle. The high to the high, to the low, and so that pendulum swing that's Derek Carr. You get the good, here comes the bad. So that's my start and sit at the quarterback spot. What about you, my kind sir?
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more on Derek Carr. I think this is definitely the letdown game for him. If you're going to add another one in there, I think Daniel Jones gets back to his turnover-prone self against Carolina, who's coming off a letdown of a game with what they've put out there. And, I don't know. I don't know what to make of what Daniel Jones has done, because you can sit here and argue like, yeah, he's really been, not what people anticipated him to be. But then against the Rams, he throws 3 interceptions, and they get their asses handed to him. It's as nice of a way as you can possibly say it. So really don't like him there. As for the start, I always end up picking Thursday night games, but here we are again. I have not learned my lesson. And so we're going to go back to the well again. And that's Teddy Bridgewater against the Cleveland Browns. on Thursday night. Browns have allowed 8 passing touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, it's been against Herbert. Yeah, it's been against Kyler Murray. But here we are going up against a Browns offense. Baker Mayfield is injured. There's no Hunt. There's no Chubb. They're going to struggle to move the ball, which in turn should lead to some better time of possession opportunities for the Denver Broncos, who have been reeling on defense and really have just looked gassed by the end of games because the offense has just not been able to get anything done. And it's really a perfect storm, I guess is the best way to put it, for Teddy, who's had 4 games of multi-touchdowns so far this year and has really turned it on when need be. So really like him as a low-end option and really for that whole Denver offense as well to really get things moving. So Teddy Bridgewater, going back to the Teddy well, and the Thursday night well, and praying that it actually turns into a normal game for all start-sit purposes. Tight end wise,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Real quick, speaking of quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, you bring up this game on Thursday night. All the injuries. You think he goes out and he's got to throw the ball 50 times and puts up a monster number, or is he just going to kind of?
If he does, that would shock the hell out of me. If he's able to go out there and he's able to put up anything resembling a solid fantasy game, I think it's just going to be a disaster of a game for the Browns.
Makes sense.
And not something that they're going to want to write home about when all is said and done.
No commercials about this game.
No, nothing about this. If anything, it'll be Baker laid up in bed with some ice packs, if anything. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. Could be wrong. We'll see.
What do you got on tight end tip?
Tight end, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here. I'm going Ricky Seals-Jones. He seems to be the big pickup of the week at tight end, going up against Green Bay. He's had 100 yards and a touchdown the last 2 weeks, continuously getting better. He has that built-in target share that is in that Washington offense, especially with Taylor Heineke. And low tight end option 1 for week number 7 really has some opportunity in what will more than likely be a very negative game script for Washington as well, trying to keep up with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. My sit, I don't like Mike Gesicki this week. Really? Not a big fan of him. Atlanta, shockingly, allowing only 3 fantasy points per game to tight ends over the last month.
Well, I like that.
Very, very low number. Devontae Parker more than likely coming back this week should lessen the opportunities that Gesicki has on the field against Atlanta this coming Sunday. So just a matter of comparing a few things and just what is currently being concocted on the offensive side of the ball there for the Miami Dolphins.
All right.
How about yourself?
So a lot of simple plays, right? Kelsey against Tennessee, Mark Andrews against Cincinnati. We're going to get in the weeds. You got Fan against Cleveland on a Thursday, Hawkinson against the Rams. Somebody that, speaking of injury, and this isn't who I was talking about before, but, Gronk may come back this week against the Bears.
That scares me.
Yeah. And if so, he's a guy that you may check your waiver wire. People have been dumping him when he got hurt because they were talking about all those fractured ribs and punctured lungs and whatever else he had going on. Syphilis, I don't know. But dirty Dick Gronkowski up in New England. But nevertheless, I like Goddard against Vegas. I've liked 2 Eagles today. I just think you get rid of Ertz. I am the captain now.
The gold mine opens.
Yeah. I just think he's healthy. He's the lone man. It kind of sits nicely for him. But on the sitting side, I'm not exactly sure. I wanted to say Ertz is the guy to sit. But I just, new team, everybody's all excited about him being in Arizona. I just think he's still got a lot to learn. he's probably going to be the guy I'm going to stay away from. He's kind of the hot commodity just because everybody likes the new shiny toy. It's Arizona. Yep. They're the best team in 2021, but I just would try to stay away. Pick him up, but don't start him. I mean, that's great and all, but yeah, he's the guy I'd sit.
Yeah, take the flyer, see what he can do, and see if he can put himself into that offense along with all of those other passing weapons that the Cardinals have. There is no shortage of those in Phoenix whatsoever, Glendale, wherever you want to call it home. But yeah, it's crazy to think that he's going to be able to really add a whole new dimension on top of what Max Williams was doing, which honestly wasn't that bad at points so far this year for the Cardinals offense. So we'll see if he can, again, bring a whole new dimension to that tight end position for the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to wrap things up here with another segment that we've been building out here over the last couple of weeks, that being the waiver wire week 7 pickups. Obviously, we got some deadlines coming up here in just a few hours for a lot of teams. And again, a very heavy bye week means a very active waiver wire from top to bottom. At running back, we'll start there.
Okay.
Who you got?
Ooh. You went with Harris last week. You clowned him, right?
I did.
I like his counterpart, rostered at 11%. I think Stevenson, I was heavy on him last week. And when you killed him, I'm like, you know what? I actually took your advice and I picked him up. I started him in one league just because I was dealt with the injury to Chubb. So I ended up throwing him my starting lineup. He got me that touchdown, got me 14.6 points, got the W. So it was wonderful. I don't think everybody else took that advice last week, because you talked about Harris. So this week, he's the guy I think you should go after. Where, like I said, 11% rostered. It's nice. It's New England. Belichick has been really kind of using both running backs. Even Bolden got some touches. And the one dude I wanted to talk about was Jeff Wilson Jr. out in San Francisco. He's probably going to be coming back in November. They don't know exactly when. Trey Sermon has been kind of just what we've talked about with Trey Sermon, obscurity. And Elijah Mitchell just hasn't really taken hold of that starting role. He's had some spurts, but nonetheless hasn't really kind of panned out like we thought we were if you wasted all your money in the beginning of the season, like some people have. But those are the guys that I kind of like on the running back side. What about you?
So there's one guy in particular. You mentioned his name a little bit earlier, but we'll touch base on him a little bit more here. Rashad Penny. He's been burning teams left and right since he entered the league, but this might be his opportunity. This actually might be his opportunity. Same thing goes with DJ Dallas if Penny can't get back off of the IR. But addition by subtraction, I think, is the best way to put it. Alex Collins, like you mentioned, may not play this week against the New Orleans Saints. And it's a Hail Mary flyer. Don't get me wrong. He's only owned in 3% of leagues out there. But again, given the mix of bye weeks, the mix of injuries, he might be a play that could end up getting a really fair amount of carries just because there's nobody else to take the ball in Seattle that is just turned into a disaster of an offense since Russell Wilson went down. So again, a Hail Mary play, but a guy that's really not on a lot of radars that could get a healthy amount of touches in week 7 coming off of the IR.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. I think there's plenty of guys too dealing. There were plenty of injuries, just nicks and bruises for Kareem Hunt, Alex Collins, Antonio Gibson dealing with a lower leg injury. Now he's day to day. What's going to happen out there in Washington? Is it McKissick? Is he going to be the guy there? You got Dak hurt. His calf strain. If he can't go, what's that do to their running game? Who knows? But Latavius Murray sprained an ankle. Now they just brought
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, they allowed Le'Veon Bell off the practice squad. There's plenty of value there. Chris Evans rostered 4%. Dearness Johnson rostered at 2%. Devontae Freeman, Baltimore. Granted, we just talked about Bell, but 2%. Rostered.
Yep.
And then a long shot, Jarrett Patterson, Washington football team, rostered in 1% of the leagues. If it's McKissick is the guy, he may not be the guy. He just may be the guy at the top of the depth chart. Jarrett Patterson may be the guy coming in for a sophomore year to do a little something out of Buffalo, University of Buffalo. So we'll see. What about wide receivers, Mr. Johnson?
Wide receivers, I'm going to the veteran room on this one. T.Y. Hilton out in Indianapolis, I really, really like. Only 24% rostership across ESPN. Back off the IR, has 4 catches for 80 yards. Paris Campbell once again finds himself injured. God, how many times have we heard that? In terms of what is in there in the wide receiver room, you have Pascal, you have Michael Pittman, but T.Y. Hilton will always be that field stretcher, and we know that Carson Wentz can get the ball to him. I really like the way this schedule sets up. He has Tennessee, he has the Jets, he has Jacksonville in 3 of his 4 games coming up here. Very, very solid schedule as long as he can stay healthy, which has been one of the biggest knocks against T.Y. Hilton, but again, could work very well in his favor if he's able to stay healthy over these next few games if you need some wide receiver help.
Good call. T.Y.
How about you?
I love T.Y. I think, I talked to you earlier. I like Wentz. I know some people don't like him this week for some odd reason, but I thought he kind of turned a corner in watching that game. I just happened to catch like a lot of that game, and he just looked good. And it was nice to see. The high hopes over in Indy for Wentz to do well. So it was actually, I'm sure they were pretty happy to see his performance. He just looked really comfortable, and maybe he's actually feeling a lot better. He had like 3 sprained ankles or whatever it was. So, it's like now he looks like he's got one of his feet underneath him, and he's got some stability there, and he's got TY back. And and right. What was he rostered? 39% of leagues. I mean, he's available. There's a lot of people that are kind of, there was a wait and see approach. They didn't do it last week, and now they're going to be scrambling. So he's a guy you may be able to get. Good call, man. There's a couple of guys I like, but this is why I asked about Baker Mayfield, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
See the real deal?
That's what I'm asking you. Rostered in 2% of the league. 2 touchdowns, 101 yards. Is this the real deal against the Cardinals? It's like Landry's coming back. OBJ stinks. I know in my dynasty leagues, I saw him get traded 3 times today. 3 different leagues he was traded.
That's
which
crazy.
I thought was wild.
Yeah.
And so it also speaks to how many fucking leagues I'm in. 3. And so, dynasty alone. To that point, he's a man that I would look to target. A lot of buys coming up. And that's why with the injuries to Chubb and Hunt, I was curious to think if Baker's got to sling it, it just feels that he may eat a little more, and so I thought that'd be a good pick. And I like DPJ, as they're calling him out on the streets, and a sleeper is Jamal Agnew, Jaguars, not rostered by a soul. Don't even have to put a claim in for him, but he's second week in a row. He's outperformed Shenault. They're on a bye this week, so there aren't many people out, that they're looking to get. So if you're kind of sitting pretty and you're looking to maybe have some depth, possibly someone to target, think about.
All right.
Yeah.
Tight end. Where are we rolling?
You already said it. Ricky Seals-Jones. I think, he's a dude. You're rostered in 29% of the leagues. But Cole Kmet, 19%. I think he's a guy. He's in the doghouse, just spent the first 4 weeks blocking. And he seems to be getting some chemistry with our boy JF1. You saw it face to face. He looked much better. 4 catches, 49 yards. If we were able to hit pay dirt, that's a nice little solid day for a tight end. So with buys and injuries, those are a couple of guys you may be able to scoop and keep it moving. What about you, brother?
About damn time that he starts getting involved. Steve in the comments mentioned a little bit earlier, if you have room on your roster and someone that's on a buy, is it a pimp move to pick him up? This is a guy that I think you should go out and pick up. This is Pat Friarmuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Only 3%
the rook
of rosters have out there. He had 7 catches for 58 yards. in last week's game against the Seattle Seahawks. Again, this might be a situation in which now that Juju Smith-Schuster is out, that he might be filling that role, and he really a very athletic tight end. He's been outperforming Eric Ebron in the Steel City. It seems like things are trending in the correct direction, especially at tight end. It seems like he's getting more involved. Big Ben getting a little bit more comfortable and getting him involved in the game as well. I really like Pat Friarmuth as a play for week 8, but pick him up now before there's any trail on him about a possible pickup for next week's game.
All
so
right.
definitely a guy I like there. Quarterback wise, we'll wrap up with quarterback. You mentioned Tua. I'm going to the Tua well.
Oh, you took mine.
One. I'm sorry.
I like that. No. Hey, that's a good one to kind of wrap up on that one. You know, I think we're both square there. Go ahead. You do your pontification. Here,
just 25%. Is all that he is at right now after a lot of hype to start the season. Could he turn things around in Miami? Threw for 329 yards and 2 scores in last week's loss to Jacksonville. Now he gets Atlanta, not a great defense, allowing the 5th most points per game to quarterbacks, a low-end play, and solid bye week play for week number 7.
You know,
swiping.
I like Wentz. I like Wentz though. A roster 35% of the league. He's a guy. I just think he's a sleeper. Some people think he's a bust this week. I kind of think he's a sleeper. Just throwing it out there. I like Tua too, just for some odd reason. Coming off the injury, a lot to prove. Coming out with a little chip on his shoulder, which is probably going to be another injury. But I have high hopes for him. Just would like to see him perform well. All that hype, but you never want to see a guy stink. But unless he's on the Packers, so yeah.
Then all the time, we want to.
Don't forget Thursday night game this week, right? We got a battered, bruised up Cleveland versus at home against Denver Broncos, and then the Monday night games New Orleans against Seattle. I always write those down. I never say it, and I just figured I'd say it tonight.
Yeah, make sure that you got your lineups all set. You get those Thursday night players out of your flex. Yes. Play them in their normal position slots. If
they're saying Chubb is a chance to play Thursday night,
I will be shocked.
I know
if Chubb plays on Thursday night. I think Dearness Johnson's the guy on the running game there. Curious to see what he does. He's averaging 5 yards a carry over his short-lived career with the Cleveland Browns. And who knows? Maybe he'll do something with the ball when given the opportunity. But going up against Denver, that's a tough test. Needless to say, it is a very tough test. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened, especially this year.
They can't have any more injuries, man. It's just insane. They're going to happen. I don't remember. I thought last year it was bad. I feel like this year it's worse.
Absolutely is worse. Especially at running back. I mean, I don't know how many more times we can talk about the running back injuries, but every week gives us a new one to talk about where it's like, what the hell is going on?
There's 3 or 4 every week, legit.
Yeah, it's not fun to say the least, especially when you're cruising the waiver wire and realize I have nothing to work with. So, hey, let's throw out Kenneth Gainwell as a starter and pray that he actually hits pay dirt and gets some carries away from Miles Sanders. I think that's pretty much where I'm at this week in terms of where rosters are at. But, hey, it could be worse, I guess. Probably at some point, yes. Minnesota and Buffalo, 2 of the bigger ouches this week when it comes to the bye weeks. No Thielen, no Jefferson, no Cook, no Madison, no Cousins, no Allen.
Diggs.
No Diggs, no Moss, no Singletary.
I mean, that's
no Knox.
Yeah. I mean, Knox may be out anyway. He got banged up, but
that's true.
He needed this to come for him. You know, rest up, get better. Then he can go make me some money because I got him. I have him starting over Hawkinson actually last weekend. Kind of burned me, but it burned me. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean the way things were playing, can't blame you there. Can't blame you there at all.
No.
But that's going to do it here for us for this episode of One Up Fantasy here on Chi City Sports on the Tape Never Lies Network. We do thank you all for tuning in and for listening to the podcast form. We're going to go to bed because we're both exhausted and trying to recover. Maybe we'll be recovered by next Tuesday. We'll probably be just wrapping up the recovery process. We're not these spring 23-year-old chickens that we used to be back in the day. But
we're all not like Claudio that bounces, gets home at 3, wakes up at 6, wants breakfast. It's like, dude, how the fuck? I mean, never mind. The guy saws wood like a motherfucker, but I love him.
Next time you got to bring the earplugs.
I wore my I actually brought these headphones and I put them on and I took my hoodie and I just like went like this and I cinched it all up so they wouldn't fall off. And I laid on my pillows. I just laid like this and I couldn't, the noise cancellation, it helped it. I was able to sleep for a little bit. It was funny.
Oh,
sorry for doing that if it made like loud noises in the microphone, but yeah. Yeah, but it was a blast. I mean, my stomach hurts from laughing so hard. There was so much funny shit, like your buddy, and just, oh my God, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about it tomorrow night on TTNL. Keeping it 100 with Shane and Phil at 8:30 tomorrow night, Eastern Standard Time. Stephen Johnson, Chris Jackle. We'll see you next Tuesday, 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. Take care, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.